welcome to this episode of the President's Diary podcast. This year, the world turns its eyes to COP30 meetings in Brazil, which is going to be a decisive moment in the fight against climate change. For too long, we've seen ambitious pledges made on climate summits, yet the gap between words and those actions remain dangerously wide. COP30 must not be another conference of promises, but a turning point where commitments translate into measurable progress. Today, we are asking the hard questions. How do we move from pledge to action? And what will it take to make this decade of delivery? With me to discuss this critical issue is my guest, Jasmima Sabatina from Bangladesh. Jasmima is a youth climate activist committed to addressing climate crisis, especially in Bangladesh, where she works and focuses on creating sustainable solutions for vulnerable communities. Jasmima, it's an honor to have you today. You're actually one of the most dynamic young people I know who are trailblazing the fight against climate change. So thank you for all the work you do and thank you for joining in today.
Thank you so much once again, Destiny. Despite of all our, actually, I really want to say apologize for you because despite all the busy schedule, you and me finally we booked this slot, and thank you for your having the patience. And once again, thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you. Let's get to the questions already. Right. So now
Yeah.
let's focus on what has been happening in the past COP meetings. We've had a lot of pledges, but little progress. So the past COP meetings have produced a lot of ambitious promises, really ambitious promises. My question to you is, why do you think the implementation of these promises have been slow? And what accountability mechanisms could make these commitments not just headlines, but turn them into measurable outcomes?
Okay, so yeah, many countries actually pledges some bold targets at past COPs, and why still it is a COP 30th COP, but it's still the pledges, the bold action, the mechanism are not sufficient for us as like we are developing countries. So honestly, a lot of comes down to politics, money, and capacity, and countries make bold pledges which is actually looks good in internationally, but turning them into action means laws, budget, institution, and public private engagement. That's not so easy because there is a we can see the domestic politics, the short electoral cycles, and also competing the economic priorities often actually slow these things down. And plus some countries rely on climate finance, but technology they don't have to um, they don't have yet. So it's not always track of will or a lack of will, but a gap between intention and real world implementation is a huge thing because drafting on paper, write a pledge, it's easy, but action and implement that's actually tough. And also there is no what your question about that accountable, there is no accountable mechanism yet so far. So this is a huge gap from my side. And yeah.
Hmm. Let's get to one of the pledges that have been made. I think that was $100 billion annually commitment for climate finance. What practical financing tools, like let me say green bonds, debt swaps, or loss and damage funds, could bring real relief to vulnerable countries? I know you come from Bangladesh and you really work with vulnerable communities. What practical financial tools do you think could really bring real relief to vulnerable communities? And do you believe the Global South is being treated fairly in the climate process?
Okay, tools like debt for climate swaps can free up money for adaptation if done carefully. But green bonds work well for middle income countries with credit access.
Mhm.
And blended finance using grants or considential loans to reduce the public investment, the using grants and risks. So can unblock the major larger sums. the important things is to make sure these tools don't shift burdens onto the most vulnerable countries. So and if we say that there is lots of already pledges and bonds are already made up in past COPs, but there is a certain thing that loan and debt and credit. So we have to transparent and accountable for that.
During the COP29 meetings, there was a debate about phasing out and phasing down on fossil fuels. And up to date, it still remains really unresolved. Um, what outcome do you think uh, COP30 should deliver on? Do you consider the aspect of phasing out, and do you consider the aspect of phasing down?
Okay, so phase out and phase down and phase out, which is completely different thing. I think it's a mix is realistic. Phasing out coil quickly and achievable in many countries if there is a just transition for workers and communities. Oil and gas tracker because of geopolitical and energy securities. So by COP30, we can do what's politically feasibility is a stronger commitment to call phrase out and clear timelines for fossil fuel reduction and concrete a um, framework or a scale or plan whatever to scale the renewable energy more and modernize that grids and frameworks and the projects. Basically we should actually um, focus on manage the decline of fossil fuels while ramping up clean energy rather than the expecting a immediate global ban, because we cannot actually whatever we say that fossil fuel fraser, but this is true and I do not actually agree with this that completely shift into renewable energy completely fraser. No, it's actually not a actionable thing. We must actually keep it balanceable. That the net zero that Dr. Yunus already have that three pillar, which is a one of that net zero carbon emission. So what we can do that balancing that we if we developing something we have to protect our environment as well. So what I actually I'm thinking that phrase down is a good thing, but phrase out it's a also good thing but it's difficult thing, because as a developing country or developed country we have to actually emit, we have to develop, we have to use the um, no, opposite of renewable energies we have to use, but what we can do balance it. If we cutting down the trees we should actually make more environment friendly parks, green bonds and another the adaptations skills more uh, majorly. Yeah.
Let's still talk about energy. If you have to look at the global economy today, like you have to look at global markets, the world is so much dependent on energy. In fact, there is not just an energy urgency, there's an energy emergency in the world. And the world is still much dependent on sources like oil, gas, and coal, which are fossils and which are really contributing to the climate crisis. Which energy innovations, let me say renewables, hydrogen, nuclear, carbon capture, offer the best chance, as you have talked about, facing down instead, which emerging energy technologies offer the best chances, let me say, to accelerate progress?
So there is lots of solar, lots of energy transaction we already know, but right down the world depends heavily on fossil fuel, coal, oil, natural gas, because they have powered economic for decades,
Mm.
and coal is the biggest contributor to emission. But in some countries, if I say that it's easier to phase out quickly with just transition plan for workers and communities. As in Bangladesh, if I say that Bangladesh is more focusing the the just transaction one, because we are preparing our position paper for COP30. So, and there is so many seminar, workshop, consultation for the just transaction. So, it is very easy to phrase out for these types of vulnerable countries for phrase out. And the energy that actually offers the best chance for a rapid or realistic transition is renewable energy. Solar, wind, hydro, and increasing the green hydrogen. These technologies are available, but increasing, dropping it cost, and can create a more jobs while reducing emission. And also pairing the renewable energy with grid modi modernization and energy storage, given the country's feasible path to reduce fossil fuel dependence while actually keeping energy secure. And in short, actually, can say that coal can be phrased out fastest. Oil and gas need to manage decline, and renewable are the real opportunity to build a clean, reliable, and just energy in future. So yeah.
If we have to look at recent global events lately, we've had flooding in Pakistan, we've had flooding in China, we've had flooding, I think, in some parts of the United States, and all around the world, we find that extreme weather events are actually displacing millions of people. And I want us to look at the balance of between mitigation and climate change adaptation. Do you think climate change adaptation is still underfunded compared to climate change mitigation? What do you think nations can do, the world can do to strike a balance between the two?
Okay. So, if I talk about that mitigation and adaptation, first we have to know the basic about mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation means, if I say in simple word, that mitigation is all about keep the temperature below 1.5. This is the key thing. And adaptation means that to adapt the situation according to the nature, according to the weather or something. So if I say that floods are actually increasing severe worldwide, but countries respond differently depending on their resource and planning. As you said that Pakistan suffers the frequent flood, and I also read some articles regarding that. So their response is similar to Bangladesh. That proactive response is reactive actually. Adaptation measure the like early warning system, embarkments, and community evolution plans, exits, but are underfunded. Mitigation, which is efforts like reducing emission, what I actually said in before, that reducing emission, carbon dioxide, and etc. And another thing is that you said USA invest heavily in mitigation and adaptation. For adaptation, there are advanced early warning system, flood plan management, resilient infrastructure. Then I think that the takeaway is reach is centralized. Countries can invest more both in adaptation and mitigation, but effectively, while low income countries are actually often face a trade-off, so they need adaptation most urgently.
Let's look ahead at COP20. I think the meetings will be coming up in is it October, if I'm not mistaken? Somewhere between October and
COP
November.
30.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And that
It
should
was
be,
COP 30.
yeah, COP30. And that should be after the United Nations General Assembly that is going to take place later this month in September. If you have to define what a successful COP30 meeting will look like, according to you, that's a very personal question. If you have to define what a successful COP30 meeting will look like in one, two, or three sentences, what will it be, or what would you say?
Okay. So yeah, it's a very critical question, but for me, it's more like real action, not just promises, not any kind of institution making, not any kind of drafting, blah 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 shits. No, no watchdogs actually, no watchdogs. And for me, a successful COP30 means to clear finance commitments with timeline, especially for adaptation and loss and damage. Concrete a plan to phase out coal and scale the renewable energy globally, and a strong measurable implementation mechanism so it progress should be accountable and visible. So there is a fourth thing I should actually give that if the fourth thing happened, it could be that could be a successful COP, which is transparent, accountable, inclusive, and participation type. The participation means all kind of youth, older, CSOs, everyone should be in that one table. Negotiation should be inclusive and participation also should, inclusive. And another thing is that proper and timeline and framework and accountable one. Yeah, so the successful COP means transparent, accountable, and inclusive and accessible for all, easy to access, not like please give us money, please give us money, not like that. Real action should be
Okay.
more for me.
No, it doesn't. Now, another personal question. I know a lot of world leaders will be attending the event, and what
What
will be your message? What will be
message?
your message to the world leaders? If you have to talk to them, what will be your message to the world leaders who will be attending um, oh, about your commitment to prove that they are serious about delivering on climate change promises?
I should tell them it's really much personal, but I feel I should tell them please stop arranging the cops meeting
Oh,
because yes, because as a climate activist, if I say that I'm really nature friendly or climate friendly, or as an activist, if we see that COP30, which is in a place in Belém, okay, the, for that COP30 event, there is around 3,000 trees are cutting down for making the mm, making the conference hall, the mature trees. So there is no point to ask or point to discuss by cutting down trees. It should be more nature friendly, not stop the cops, but it should be nature friendly. It should be not only a picnic type thing. So, and another thing is that I should actually say that stop treating cops as moments to announce intention.
hmm.
Treat them as moments to commit to action, bring budget, timelines, accountable to you as well self, and not just speeches or the actually the world actually need more solution, not only problems or not only speeches. So yeah, and yeah, this thing I can actually say in the world leaders. And also please solve the geopolitical situation in your other countries, because geopolitical situations, the diplomats are more effect on the climate change. Because if I say that climate change is a itself is a political issue, so um, we have to solve the political issues or geopolitical situation in countries to countries, the Middle East countries, those who are actually emit um, coal gases or coil. So we have to talk to them and bring a solution, not only speeches.
Thank you. I find that message very touching because I actually find the hypocrisy of world leaders flying their private jets to attend a conference and then still talk about
There
emissions.
is there is so many carbon footprints
Mm,
are actually happen in for COP. There's thousands of people are going there.
mm,
There's no making sense because okay fine, we have to use plane, we have to emit the carbon dioxide, okay fine, but by cutting down trees like a Amazon forest, which is actually one of the most emerging and resourceful forest for all over the world. And also, just like Amazon forest, we have in Bangladesh Sundarban, which is also a World Heritage thing. So
Mm,
this is not doesn't make any sense that we cutting down trees to attain to protecting the climate for the things. This is a hypocrisy, I can say. So that's why I really emerge them that if you really want to organize COP, don't do these types of hypocrisy. Limited thing, and not accessible for all, but also limited it, and also bring a proper budget with timeline and accountable with yourself.
mm. Thank you. Just thank you so much for your contributions. And just as a closing statement, the climate crisis doesn't really wait for negotiations. And COP30 should be our last chance to show global leadership that they can deliver on promises. And from finance to energy, from resilience to justice, it's time to act, I think. Um, Thank you for joining me for this conversation. And let's, keep pushing to turn pledges into progress. Thank you so much for the work you do, Shasmima, and I wish you all the best. And I don't know if you were attending the meeting, but I hope you do, and so your voice can be heard. Thank you so much for joining me on the meeting today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Destiny, for having me once again. Thank you.